good day, and welcome to Storytime. We're ending off with the book of Judges today, and just a warning at the beginning. It's not one of those stories that you want any kids to hear. It's really quite sensitive. And then from the end of the book of Judges, we're going straight into the book of Ruth. And for that reason, I've got this map over here, just to show where we are in the timeline of the Bible at the moment. It's a map that we adapted from cover to cover, the 1999 book that took you through the Bible, and it was just for me one of the most helpful maps in the way it laid it out quite simply. So this is the Old Testament up until the birth of Jesus Christ here right at the bottom. I think you can see it there. So from the creation up there with Adam and Eve, we've come through the story. We've come through the Exodus and covered the Abraham's family story, the patriarchs. Then out of the Exodus, we went into the book of Joshua. We saw the victory and the conquer of the land. And now we enter this period of the Judges. And right in the period of the Judges sits the story of Ruth. And as we come to the end of the book, like I warned you last week, it becomes really dark. But it's good to remember that there are Ruths and there are Naomis still in the land. Those who faithfully love the Lord and who serve Him and obey Him. And so we'll cover the two of these together today. Let me pray for us. Father, thank you for the privilege of sitting around your word together. Thank you, Father God, for the good and the bad stories in the books of the Bible. Thank you that you tell us things to warn us, Lord. And I pray that as we look through this dark story beginning today, will you show us where we are at? Will you show us what we need to learn out of it? What warning signs, warning bells go off for us, so that we can heed your voice, Father, and obey and love you. Thank you very much, God. Amen. All right, so we're into chapter 19. And right from the beginning, I want you to take note. We've covered a story that in so many respects sounds the same as that. And that is in Genesis chapter 19. In Genesis chapter 19, we have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you'll remember that Abraham was speaking to the angel of the Lord along the way, as they were going to see whether the report that reached the Lord concerning the cities is as bad as the Lord heard. And then he interceded for the city because his cousin Lot was staying there. And then as these two angels walked off ahead into the city, they came into the square in the middle of the city, and then a kind, hospitable man came and said, well, come and stay at my house. And they said, no, it's all right, we'll stay in the square. And then he insisted. He says, no, come under my roof. And so they went in. And then the men of that city came together and wanted to break the door down, because they said, we want to have intercourse with these two men that came into the city, these strangers that came into our town. And the man insisted, no, please do not. And then he said, here's my daughters. Take them rather than abusing these men. But the angels then blinded the men outside the door, and they quickly left the city. And destruction came on it. Now, the story that we're covering today in Judges chapter 19, even the chapters are the same number, sounds so much the same. Remember that those cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, were destroyed, and from that time onwards, the river, the Jordan River running down to the sea through the Jordan Rift Valley, got blocked up because of that destruction. And from there on out, that would be a desolate place. But now, we are dealing with a Benjamite city, a city of Israel, and something as bad as Genesis chapter 19 is about to happen in Israel among the people of God. So it sort of stands really as two signs for us, saying, well, that was the city that God destroyed, but these are the people of God. How far have they gone off? How far have they drifted away from the Lord in their sin? And how much destruction and hurt is it bringing into this place? So it starts off, like many of the stories in Judges, with a murky kind of setup. There's a Levite, and remember who the Levites are. They are the clan that the Lord says, You don't have a property in Israel because I am your inheritance. You are to be teachers of the people. You are to guide the people and serve in the temple. In other words, they are the examples. They are the ones that you should look up to, all Israelites, and see, live like them. Now, a Levite, beginning in chapter 19, had a concubine. And immediately it sort of catches you off guard. Says, what? Really? Because a concubine is a slave woman. It's not, it's in Afrikaans a hoofvrouw. There wasn't an official marriage. You just took the woman to be yours, and she's, later on you'll see, she refers to him as her master. She's a slave taken as a wife. And this concubine was unfaithful to the Levi and then ran off back home. Now, the concubine lived in the area of Ephraim, in an isolated place in Ephraim Hills, and the concubine's parents were close to the Bethlehem district, close to Bethlehem. And it says after 3 months, he took the journey with 2 donkeys and one of his slaves to go and get his wife back, his concubine. And when the dad of the concubine saw him, he was very glad. And he took him into the house and he entertained him for 3 days. He was eating and sleeping and drinking there with them. And then this funny interaction about the hospitality of the dad. Because it says, when he wanted to leave on the 4th day then, the dad said, no, wait. Let's just sit down and have breakfast first. And they sat down and had breakfast and kayert. And eventually it became late. And when he wanted to leave, the dad said, wait a bit. Rather go tomorrow. Sleep another day here. And so he slept another day there. It sounded like he didn't want his wife to, or his daughter to leave the house. It was nice having her back at home. And the next day the same. The Levite stood up and he ready with his 2 donkeys and his servant and his concubine, and the dad says, no, wait, sit a while, let's have a meal. And they sat down and ate again, and then when it became later, close to evening, the man wanted to leave, and he said, no, wait, it's a bit late, sleep over. But he says, no, wait, I really need to go. I really need to get on the road. It's not the best time to get on the road, but I need to get going. I can't sleep here another day. And so off they went. And obviously not traveling very far, because now darkness is coming. And his servant says to him, wait, there is Jebus, which later would become Jerusalem. So it's interesting, in Joshua at some stage Jerusalem was conquered, and now it was taken again by the enemy. And later David will again conquer it. And the servant says, well, here's Jebus. It's getting dark. Let's go in here and sleep in the city for the night. But the Levite says, no, wait. That's a Jebusite city. I would rather press on to Gibeah or to Ramah, one of the Israelite cities. I want to stay in a city with my own people. I'll feel safer there. And remember this, because it's really sad that he would have been maybe safer in Jebus. So they pressed on and they came to Gibeah, which was in the Bethlehemite district, one of the Bethlehemite towns. And they went into the city and settled down in the square with their 2 donkeys. They had fodder for themselves, they had bread, they had wine enough, but nobody took them in. There wasn't great hospitality in the city of the Bethlehemites. Until an old man during darkness came in from the field, and he saw the guy and his wife and his servant and his animals there in the square. He said, listen, where are you from? He says, well, I'm a Levite from the Ephraim district, and I came now not far away from here, but nobody took me in for the night. I've got fodder for myself, I've got food, I've got drink, but I just don't have a roof over my head. So the man said, no, come to my house and leave your things. I'll take care of you. Great hospitality, similar to the Genesis chapter 19 story. And he went into the man's house and they sat down. It says they were married together. And And then a pounding came on the door. And people shouting on the outside saying, "Where's that man that came earlier? We were in the square. Bring him out here. We want to have intercourse with him. We want to rape him." To which the old man says, "No, please, please don't do something this terrible. This man is a guest in my house. He came here for safety under my roof. Please don't do that." And then he says, "Listen, but my daughter is here, my virgin daughter, and his concubine. Let's send them out. Use them for the night. Rape them. But don't touch the man." But they insisted. They said, no, we want the man. And eventually, the Levite took his concubine and put her out the door. And he went off to sleep. And they abused her the entire night. And close to the morning light, she made her way back to the house, but only came to the threshold and fell down before the door on the steps. And then I want to read the words because I don't think my words will do. Verse 25. At daybreak, the woman went back to the house where her master was staying, fell down at the door and lay there until daylight. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, there lay his concubine, fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. He said to her, "Get up, let's go." But there was no answer, and then the man put her on his donkey and set out for home. I'm going to get to the worst part just now. But there really doesn't feel like there's much love from this man. It doesn't seem like there's any caring about her. It doesn't seem like he laid awake at night. He didn't come and look for her. Should he have ever opened the door to let her out? No. And then when he arrived back home, it says he took a knife and cut his concubine up into pieces, limb by limb, into 12 parts, and sent them into all Israel. And everyone who saw it said, "Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt." Just imagine. We must do something, so speak up. Then the Israelites all rallied together, all the tribes, and said, "What has happened in Israel?" They got together and they called this Levite and said to them, "Tell us, what happened? Why did you cut her up? Why did we find her limbs sent to us?" And he told the story. And then to the end of it, he makes this statement. Verse 7, chapter 20, says, "Now all you Israelites, speak up and tell me what you have decided to do." And it's one of those stories that you want to say, what is it doing in the Bible? And why in such terrible graphic detail? But the whole point was, this decay has been happening and happening and happening in Israel. Right there, under their noses. It's been happening. And suddenly, with this kind of climax, it came onto the front covers of the newspaper. And for the first time, the Israelites were shocked and said, "What? What is taking place in Israel?" It's like a great wake-up call to everybody to say, what on earth is happening to us? How have we spiraled as low as this? Nothing like this has ever happened in our country before. It took an event like this to shake them out of their boots. And then they decided, no, we have to go to war against the city. The people who perpetrated this has to be killed. And so they got an army together, and it's an army of 400,000 Israelites. So the whole of Israel rallied together. In fact, they sent word and they said, "Listen, if you do not come to war with us, you too will be made war against." There was a warning. And these 400 rallied together and then sent a message to the Bethlehemites, to that clan of theirs, and said, "Guys, you've heard what happened in this city, Gilead. Now, step away. Bring out the offensive parties. so that we can deal with them, that they can be punished. But the tribe of Benjamin said, no, not a chance. You're not going to make war against one of our cities. And so they rallied together an army of 26,000. You want to say, what? Who are you defending? Why are you fighting for them? Surely you could see that this is wrong. But they wanted to stand by their tribe. And now 400,000 going to war against 26,000 Bethlehemites just seems wrong. So the Israelites sat together and they asked the Lord, Lord, who should go and make war against against Bethlehem? And the Lord answered them and said, Judah, which is the biggest tribe of Israel. And so the people of Judah went on behalf of the rest of Israel to fight against another of their tribes, the Benjamites. And then, sadly, and a shock to them, they lost. In that first battle against Benjamin, 22,000 Israelites fell, not of the tribe of Benjamin. So the Benjamites, who should not have won this war, suddenly won the war, and 22,000 of the tribe of Judah dies. And they retreat and they mourn together and bring sacrifices to the Lord and pray to Him. Say, Lord, what now? Next day they went to battle again. And again, 18,000 of the Judeans die. Again they retreat and they come back and they ask the Lord, Lord, what now? What is happening? This should not be happening. We should be winning the war. Our army is much greater than that of Benjamin. Benjamin is a rather small tribe compared to Judah. And then after bringing sacrifices to the Lord and fasting together and praying, they ask the Lord, Lord, should we go again? So they still have this conviction that this must be made right. They must be punished. And the Lord said, yes, go. Tomorrow I will give you the victory. And so they went to fight against Benjamin again. This time they had a different plan. They retreated as the army of Benjamin advanced out of the city of Gilead towards them. But there was an ambush waiting. And as soon as the ambush came in, the onslaught on the Benjamites was so quick that they could not fight against it. And 25,100 in total of the Benjamites are killed. In other words, out of that entire army of theirs of 26,000, only 900 men were left. And then the rest of the Israelites went and they burned the city of Gilead. They killed all its inhabitants, and they did the same to all the other Benjamin towns and cities. Went and killed them and burned them to the ground. And so, in effect, after this war was ended and the 900 men went and hid themselves, the tribe of Benjamin was just about wiped out. Now, to make matters worse, they promised one another, all the elders of Israel promised one another and said, we will never give one of our daughters into marriage again to a Benjamite. Never. And then after the heat of the war was over, they cried before the Lord. And they said to him, Lord, how did this happen? How did a tribe, one of the tribes of Israel, got wiped out today? And then they started relenting the promise that they made. Said, now, there's 900 Benjamites. Where are they going to get daughters for themselves if we will not give our daughters into marriage for them? So they asked the question. They said, is there anybody who did not come out to war with us? And after looking around, they saw, oh, there's Jabesh Gilead. These guys from that town, they did not come. And so they sent off a piece of the army to them. They killed all the people of the city, but took all the virgins. They found there's 400 virgins there. And then they brought them and they gave them to the Benjamites. But wait, it's not enough. But already there you want to say, does that seem right? What's happening over here? Is it good? Is it just? And then they said, well, we have to find more. We have to find more wives for them. And then they reminded one another. Said, somebody came up with a sharp plan and said, the feast of the Lord at Shiloh. Wait, we're going to have a feast over there. And all the people of Israel is going to come together at Shiloh. And then during that feast, the virgins will all the young daughters of ours will come together and they will dance together. So they sent word secretly to those Benjamites who did not have a wife yet and said to them, come to the feast at Shiloh. And it really sounds like it's 7 brides for 7 brothers. And while the girls are dancing over there, hide yourself in the bushes and then suddenly come out and everybody grab a wife and run. And then when the fathers and the brothers will come and they say to the elders, listen, the Benjamites have stolen my daughters, then we will appease them and say, wait, please, do not bring your daughter back. Let the Benjamites have them so that they can, again, continue the name of the clan of Benjamin, that they can grow a clan again in our midst. And they did grow a clan again. You'll remember that Saul, from the tribe of Benjamin, is the first king of Israel. And I think there's much food for thought as well, that the first king would come out of this nearly destroyed tribe. And it's not long afterwards, as you can say. There's Saul over here, the first into the monarchy after the book of Judges. Now the entire story here, landing at the end, finishes with this phrase, because at the end of it you want to say, what of all this is right? What out of everything that just took place? The Levi is not right in the story. The way he treated his concubine, the way that he had a concubine. The Israelites, in coming to make war, it seems like the Lord is judging them and saying, I will not give you victory over the Benjamites, because you yourself are not walking in righteousness. You, as we've seen through the whole of the book of Judges, you have been falling away from you. You have not been faithful to me. And so they are defeated by the one that they think they're going to bring judgment on, because they themselves are not right with the Lord. And then the conclusion of the story, in which it ends off, nothing of it seems right. And then it ends with this phrase, verse 25, in those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. Which is a good conclusion to the story, to say they're not following the king, but also they are not godly leaders rising up, guiding the way, like we saw at the beginning of the book with Deborah. But then into the book of Ruth, we find that at this time, in the village life of Israel, there are those that are just, that are still walking upright with the Lord, that are still serving him. So the story of Ruth kicks off with a famine. And immediately when we read famine, we have to say, oh wait, way back there in the book of Deuteronomy, the Lord warned and said, if you will follow me, if you will obey me, you will be blessed. Your field will be blessed. I will give you the earlier and the latter rains. Your produce of the field will be good. Everything. Your children, you will bear children. All of those blessings will come upon you. But if you do not obey me, if you don't walk according to my statutes, there will be hardship. So it starts off with a famine, and then this man Elimelech, with his wife Naomi and his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, get desperate, and they leave the city of or the town of Bethlehem, and they go into the Moabite territory on the other side of the Jordan River. And over there, it doesn't seem much later, Elimelech passes away, and Naomi is left with her 2 sons, the 2 of whom have married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. And then within about 10 years of them staying there, the 2 sons also pass away. And then the widow Naomi is left with these 2 daughters-in-law. And she decides, I'm going to go back home. There's nothing keeping me here anymore. And at the beginning of the journey, both of the daughters walk with her. And it seems like they dearly loved her, both Orpah and Ruth. And just before they were going to cross out of the country of Moab, she turns to her two daughters and she says, listen, go back home. And listen to what she says. She says, go back to your family and to your gods. And they insist. They say, no, we will go with you. She says, man, what do I have to offer you? Will I bear you another son? I'm too old for that. And listen, even if I would marry today and conceive, will you wait for these sons to grow up and keep yourself separate so that you can marry them? You're widows. You can marry still. Go back home. And then Orpah turns around and leaves with tears in her eyes. But Ruth stays. And she says these beautiful words to Naomi, well-known words. She says, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you, Naomi. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. Now you can take that statement of her and put it to parts. It's just beautiful in every phrase of it. The promise that she makes, but the endearing love that she has for this mother-in-law of hers. Something about this mother-in-law is just pulling her. She says, I'm willing to leave my family, my land, my everything, my gods. Your God will be my God. And then it sounds at the end as if she's got a hope for eternity. It says, even death will not separate us. How beautiful is that? And so Naomi did not urge her anymore. And she went back to Bethlehem with her. And when she arrived in Bethlehem, it says the people of the town were all stirred up. They said, who is this? Can this be Naomi? They remember her from 10 years ago. And then she says, don't call me Naomi anymore. Rather call me Mara, which means bitter. Because the Lord has dealt really harshly with me. She comes back as a weeping widow, having lost 2 sons and a husband in a foreign land. And now she comes back into a very desperate state. Although she came back because she heard the Lord is blessing Israel with food again, the famine have come to an end, she doesn't have any way of working the fields. And the fields still belong to Elimelech, we would hear later. But she has nobody to work the fields, and for 10 years those fields have been lying there. And as they moved into her house, Ruth soon said, listen, I'm going out to go and get food. I'm going to see if I can glean behind the harvesters. It was the start of the barley harvest. And so she went into the field, not knowing of a man that is a close relative to Naomi, and who is one of the guardian redeemers of Elimelech's family. Now, a guardian redeemer, in some of the translations it says a kinsman redeemer. It comes out of Leviticus chapter 25. Towards the end of the chapter, the law is described that God gives that says there must be a redeemer in a family. In other words, if somebody in the family like Naomi falls into a difficult situation, she has nobody to care for her anymore, but she also doesn't have a man in the family that will continue the name of the family, then the kinsman's redeemer must come and must take the field that belonged to that man, must work the field, but must also take the women who are still in the family and conceive children through them. But those children will not bear the kinsman's redeemer's name. They will bear the name of the man who passed away. And so the family line will continue, and the field, the property, will remain in that family line for the descendants. It's a beautiful law that God has put in place. Think through our laws. See if there's something like that. God's law is really superior in its love and its care for us in every way. So she didn't know that Boaz, the man whose field she is now walking in, is that kinsman's redeemer to Naomi's family. I wonder if she even knew the law of that. Naomi would later tell her about that, because I don't think the Moabites would have a law like that. And so she walks in the field and she picks up whatever is dropped behind those who are harvesting. So it's the small bits and pieces lying on the ground, and she's starting to gather that. And then Boaz comes into the field, and immediately he notices this woman that he hasn't seen before, and he says, "Who is this?" He asks the head over his harvesters. And they say, "Oh, this is Ruth, who came with Naomi from Moab." And immediately he knows who it is. He's heard the story. This woman has quickly gained a reputation, because the people of Bethlehem are speaking about this Moabite woman with such honor, saying how faithful she is to her mother-in-law, that she would come back to a foreign land, leave her own family and her own gods to come and be with her mother-in-law, to help take care of her, even though she knows that the position that she is in this land is far worse, is far more desperate than what she would have back at home. Boaz has heard that. And so the man also says, she's been working hard. From early morning she's been here, and she's only taken one quick break. She's a hard worker. He immediately notices among all the people in the field. And then Boaz says, "Call her over." And as she comes over, he says, "Ruth, I've heard what you have done for your mother-in-law." Let me read the words for you, actually. It's beautiful. He says, "I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Here's a godly man. He recognizes she did not just come to a land. She came under the wings of the God of Israel. May he bless you. And so he says, "Listen, do not go to another field. For this entire harvest period, after the barley comes the wheat," he says, "for this entire time, be here. And you can be in my field, and I've told my workers not to harm you, not to be harsh with you. You will be safe in this field." And she immediately says, "Why have I found favor with you?" How beautiful the favor I found. Well, she worked for the rest of the day, and when mealtime came, he called her over and says, "Come, sit here and eat with us, with the rest of my harvesters." He's immediately including this foreign woman. And then when she sat down and had bread with them, and she dipped it in the wine vinegar, he even gave her some of the roasted grain. She ate as much as he could, and then had left over, and then went working in the field again. And when she went working in the field again, he called one of his harvesters over again, and he says, "Listen, allow this woman to even come and pick up among the sheaves, between the sheaves. In other words, work close to you guys. Don't reprimand her. And listen, even take some of the stalks, the whole stalks of barley, and leave it on the ground for her to pick up." How beautiful. He's just pouring favor upon favor on this woman. So by the end of the day, when she stamps out the barley, she has 13 kilograms that she's carrying back home, including the leftover food. So when she comes into the house, immediately Naomi says, "Where have you been? In whose field have you been? May the Lord bless the man who have blessed you so richly." She knows there's not a chance that you could have picked up so much food. Not a chance. Somebody have seen you and have shown you favor. And then she says, "Well, I've came into the field of a man called Boaz." And ka-ting, a light immediately went off for Naomi. She says, "That man is one of our kinsman redeemers. He's one of our guardian redeemers. So if he says go and work in his field, be there. You'll be safe there. You'll be blessed there." So she works all throughout the barley harvest and into the next harvest in his fields. And then one day Naomi says to Ruth, "Ruth, I need to find you a secure position. In other words, I need to find you a husband. We need to take care of you. And then she says, tonight I heard that Boaz is going to be on the threshing floor. He's going to be winnowing out his harvest. So do what I say. Put on your best clothes after you have washed yourself and perfumed yourself, and then go. But do not show yourself on the threshing floor. Don't be seen until he goes and lies down. And when he goes and lies down, then go and lie at his feet. And then wait and see what's going to happen. He'll tell you what to do. And Ruth is obedient. I mean, it's an awkward thing to do, right? But she says, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And so she goes, and when he goes and lies down, after he was quite merry with the rest of his harvesters, it's a lovely feast. They've brought in a good harvest after a period of drought. He goes and lies down next to the pile that they've threshed out, and he covers himself. And quietly she comes and lies at his feet, and he doesn't know anything until somewhere in the night he's startled. And he wakes up and he says, but there's a woman at my feet. Who are you? And she says, I'm Ruth of Naomi. And you are to our family a guardian redeemer. And then he says to her, stay here until morning, because you have chosen wisely. Again, I'm going to read it to you. She says so beautifully, she says, spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family. So what a beautiful image is that. I mean, you've got so much. Just spread the corner over us and fulfill your role as the guardian redeemer. And he says to her, the Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. In other words, you've been kind to Naomi, but what you are doing now is even greater. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people of my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that there's another guardian redeemer who is closer related than I am. In other words, he knows already there's somebody else who actually should fulfill this role, who must take care of this family. Then the next morning she goes back to Naomi and she reports what happened. And Naomi says, don't worry, this man will not go to rest today until he settled the matter. She's got a confidence in her heart. This is the one who's going to help us out. This is the one who's going to redeem us out of our hardship. And sure enough, Boaz goes into the city gate, and there he waits for this man that he knows, the closer relative to Elimelech's family, who's supposed to fulfill the guardian redeemer role. He waits for him to come past, and then he sits him down. He says, wait here. He gets some of the elders of the town, says, guys, come sit down over here. I've got an important matter to discuss. The city gates was always the place where the elders would sit and do contracts and business and make decisions over lawsuits and all of those things. So they sit down together, and he says, you know that you're a guardian redeemer for Elimelech's family, for Naomi. And the man says yes. So he says, so fulfill your role. Buy the field that belongs to Elimelech. And the man says, I'll do that. And then Boaz says, but remember that when you buy the field, on the same day, Naomi and Ruth, the Moabite, will also become part of your family, and you will have to provide a child to fulfill that line. And immediately the man says, then I cannot do it. I cannot do it. Why? Because it's going to endanger my estate. What's he saying? I would love to help out. Yeah, no, I'll take the field. What a bargain. I'll enlarge my farm. But there's a responsibility that comes with it. It's not just for you. It's for that family line to continue. Oh no, I can't do that. It's not going to be good for my estate. Because a portion of the estate will now go to them. And so Boaz says, all right, but I'll do it. I'm next in line for this role. And so he takes off his sandal and then gives it to the man, and the man gives him one of his sandals, which is a sign that we have fulfilled this contract. All right, forever I will have these 2 unpaired sandals in my cupboard, and you will have it in yours, and people will remember, oh wait, you have had this agreement. You have taken the guardian redeemer role. And so that day he took the estate of Elimelech, and he took Ruth as his wife. And then the story finishes so beautifully, which is a perfect walk-in to the book of Samuel for us. Because out of this marriage between Ruth the Moabite and Boaz, this upstanding, noble man in Israel, there comes a son called Obed. And out of Obed comes a son called Jesse. And out of Jesse comes a son called David, who becomes the greatest king that Israel ever had, up until Jesus Christ. And so the story of this odd couple, widow out of a small town called Bethlehem, who had a real tragedy, and a Moabite, not an Israelite, comes this glorious end, and the kingly line on which Jesus Christ will sit on eventually. What a beautiful story. But just to draw back between where we ended Judges and where we started Ruth, it's in this desperate time where people are walking away from the Lord, where the nation needs to be shaken to see, how deep have you fallen? How far away from the Lord have you turned? See where you are. What is it? Shake your head. Wake up. In that time, there's this godly woman, Naomi, that touches a Moabite so deeply that she would say, I'll leave everything and I'll come with you. I'll serve your God. I'll be with your people. And that sacrifice turns into this incredible blessing for Ruth and her family for all the ages forward. So, Father, I pray that we will be like Naomi, and we will be like Ruth. We will choose well. We will be faithful in hard times, and we will stick with you because you are the very best. And show us, Father God, if we need a wake-up call, just to see where we are, not just us and our family, our community, but our country, our land, our world. Let us see the world through your eyes, that we will not be caught off guard, slipping away into a dark place. Thank you, Father God, that you are good